I'm not going to be doing anything crazy. I have just one thing I want to do. I don't know how long it'll take. It might be a short stream, might be a little longer. I'll have to see. But I had this idea yesterday about an additional sort of workflow optimization that I might be able to use. And it's going to involve different image display capabilities. So what I'm going to do is pop on over to my Emacs and start explaining what I'm going to be prototyping today. And this can tie into the document rendering library that I'm working on already. So this is still relevant to all the work I've been doing before. It's just a nice little weekend thing. Right, so all I'm going to be doing is shifting my keyboard for a moment here, working on a .ppm file export, and the reason for that is well, I had this sort of idea and I think it'll work. So here I've got a ppm section to work on. I made this is a string that I copied from this Wikipedia article here about different net PBM graphics format is mentioned in here. So here we've got portable bitmap, portable gray map, and portable pixmap. So ppm is portable pixmap, and I'm going to be making something that creates those files. So I copied that little bit of text there from this right here, ppm example, and I'm gonna first of all I'm gonna make this ppm test. Let me go ahead and put that in the REPL there. So right, if I do ppm test, it's just a string with new lines in it and some of those values as taken from that example. And all I'm going to do now is spit, so make that I'm going to put that into a file, ppm test.ppm, in the working directory I have here, ppm test. Okay, so that exported just fine. Now what I'm going to do is pop open a new window in my Emacs, and I'm going to go here and open that file that I just created, ppm test.ppm. Now, since this is a 3 by 2 pixel thing, it's very, very tiny. You kind of can't really see it at all. But I can see, if I wonder if I could zoom in. Let's see here. Let's zoom in image buffer. Can I do that in Emacs? Man. Well, let's just see if this thing will work. I don't think this will work, but then it doesn't matter all that much. Okay, well, never mind. It's not important. Um, the idea though is, get out of that buffer there. Okay. So my thought is, can I resize this up and down? Yep. There we go. So the idea is I have something here that displays an image that I create, and if I make something that runs a image generate, like that updates that file when I do changes in my REPL, then I can have some kind of visual output kind of right in line without having to use a browser for everything. So that's kind of the idea. So I'm just going to mess around with making a ppm file. So if we know, just to test this out a little further, what I want to do is make a well, let's start by making a completely black image. So let's see here. What do I need? Well, let's do defin ppm header first. We'll make a function that creates a header. So it's going to be really simple. I'm going to just kind of have the string part built in already, right? So it's just these 3 lines. So p3 and then the width and height. So the ppm header, all I need is the width and height. And all that's going to then do is return a string that has the correct elements in it. So it'll be p3 like that. p3 with a new line. Like that. And then the next thing is just going to be width, then a new line, or pardon me, then a space, and then the height, and then a new line. Right, so we're right here, and then actually 255 like that, and then a new line. So let's test that that function works. So if I make a ppm header that matches this, it'll be a height of, or a width of 3 and a height of 2. If I print line that to see how it looks pretty printed, that looks correct, right? So let me just test one more thing. Print line string of, this should be after the header of ppm header of 3 by 2. Oops, like that. Yeah, okay, so we have the new lines make sense, these make sense here. Now let's just do one final thing here where we create a 300 by 200 image, right? 300 by 200, so that should be okay. This 255 here is just part of the header. It's just the maximum value for each color. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So that looks okay. So we have a header function. The next thing I want to consider is here, the image data is just a list of pixels from, let's close that. So let's have a look here, since this is nice and easy to see. Clearly, the order that it draws the pixels is sequentially from the top left reading horizontally like this, right? So we've got red is the first pixel, green is the second, blue is the third, yellow, because it's 3 by 2, goes down to the next row of pixels, and white and black and so on. Let me, mute my phone for a moment so that I'm not getting distracted by it. There we go. So, actually, let me just see here. Well, looks like we're live, looks like we're good. Yeah, so it just does pixels. It, like reading a book in English, is just left to right, top to bottom. Pretty simple. So all that means is we'll have to make a sort of thing that can convert a grid of some kind into that list of pixels and go from there. So let me create something that, let's make a function that puts that creates the appropriate pixel color string that can be appended into the ppm file, right? So what should I call the function? It'll be something that well, let's do pixel string. We'll do that. And the argument that you pass in will just be RGB, like that, right? The red value, green value, and blue value. And so that's actually quite simple as well. You have to do well, let's separate it out a little bit. Maybe it can be a little cleaner here. What I want, so one thing I'm pretty sure is the case is that this space here, you need one space and a new line for this to parse correctly. I'm pretty sure. So in order to do that, I will first create let's see. Apply string to interleave of let's imagine a color 120, 120, 120. Right, and I'm interleaving between that the repeat of a space character like that. Yeah, okay, so that actually works just fine there. Let pixel let the pixel string be the application of string to this here, interleave of RGB, like that. Repeat space. So that works fine because it creates a string that's formatted the way I need it to be with the RGB value there with a space already there. So then the return of this whole function is just going to be the string of px pixel line and a new line character like this. Oops. So let's see if that prints out the way I expect it to. Print line, pixel string, and all I want to pass to that are RGB values of valid things like that. Pixel string that. Oop, there we go. So now if I imagine a scenario where I've got two of these, string them together, string this pixel and another one. That looks good, I think. A little unclear why there's a new line. Well, let's go like this. Pixel string. Yeah, okay, that looks okay. So now let's make a little, let's update our ppm test thing here to make it 100 by 100, right? So I'm gonna just kind of mush the file together a little bit here. So let's go ahead and make a def black image is just going to be string together a ppm header that is, let's make it 100 by 100, okay. And then the next set of things is going to be let me see if I can make this correct. Apply string to repeat pixel string 000, but I want to only take 10 of those for example. Let's do that. Okay. Print line, that whole thing. I should have 10 lines, all zeros like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. So that looks good. So let me just craft that in here for a minute. Apply string to take 100 times 100. Right? That makes sense. Yeah, take 10,000 or whatever that is of repeat pixel string 000 like that. String that whole bit together. I'm not going to print it because it's going to be big, like it's going to fill this up quickly, right? But I am going to make it, and then I'm going to spit into the file ppm test.ppm the black image like that. Oops. Hey, look at that. So you could see the image is being displayed right here. It expanded automatically. So now if I turn black image into a function that takes a width and a height, right? Then I can just do width, height of this whole thing. So now if I create this like this, I have to call the function black image, and I want to make it, let's say 500 by 300, right? I just call it like that. There we go. Now I've got something that makes and updates the image that's being displayed, which is, I think, really cool. Now, are there faster ways to do this, right? Like I'm writing to a file. I wonder if there's a way to do streams to make it stream live data into an image so that you could animate things and stuff, but that'll be something I deal with another time. For right now, I'm just proving out the idea that this can work, which is really exciting, actually. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Okay. Let's see. I hope I didn't break anything there. Yeah, okay, we're good. Really edit the buffer. Oh, shoot. I think I may have messed something up there a little bit. Edit the buffer. No. I don't know. Maybe we'll. Okay, no, we're good. We're good. That should be fine, I think. Okay, so now just to wrap my head around this, let's do a green image, which we should see. So this is the red value, RG, green. Let's make it completely green. We'll make that. Oh, that was strange. I don't know why I did that. That's okay though. Hey, for anyone tuning in there, by the way, hope you're having a good time. Hope your day's going well. Hope you're getting what you want done. I really appreciate people just tuning in, listening, giving this a watch a little bit. If you're interested, you can go ahead and chat, ask questions, give comments, talk about projects you're working on, talk about your day. You go right ahead, anything like that. I'm cool with it. Just glad that people are watching. I appreciate that. All right, so now let me create that image again here, but with green. Sweet. So that's basically working the way I want it to. Emacs constantly asking to revert buffer. Find a way to disable this behavior, at least for images. Example, my ppm file example. Oh, pardon me. Okay, so back to, let's just make this green like 120 instead. Still really ugly, but whatever. Actually, let me digress for a moment and find a greenish color that I think looks really nice. Okay, so this Nord theme is, in my opinion, phenomenal. And we'll do to RGB. RGBA is this. Right, so all I need to do is pop those values in here. 190, 1. Save this. Yikes. I don't know why it's doing that, but oh well. Hey. Alright, so that's interesting. That's not the right color. Huh. Interesting. Why would that be the case? Portable arbitrary map. No, let's not worry about that. Let's see. Oh, did I? Oh, of course. It's not. It's not 1. It's 140 here. Right. There we go. Jeez, that's annoying. Okay. I'll deal with that another time. I can close that, and let's just pop that back to there, so we're at least where we want it to be. That's cool. Okay, so I have 2 just example situations here where I can make a ppm image, but it's only 1 color. That's not particularly exciting, right? Let me think about what would be cool to do next. Let's see here. Well, okay, so let's make the idea of a grid width, height. So what I'm thinking is a grid will be let me see. If I do get in some kind of map, right? And then some set of keys. If I do well, let's see if I make a grid, right? I'll pretend that there's a grid that looks like this. It is a list of let's make a I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's do def example grid here, okay? And that's going to be a list of rows, which are lists of pixels, which are going to be like that. So let's make a grid. Let's just manually make one that's how do I want to? Okay, well, here, we'll make an example grid that's full of empty things first. We'll make it 5 by 5. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the first row. Second row, same thing. Third row, fourth, and the last row. Doing it good old-fashioned slow way. Okay, so we have an example grid there. Now what I want to do is let's put into this spot here, which is position. We've got 0, we've got the 0 position. 0, 0 is going to be here, right? 0, 0, 0. Well, well, first of all, let's build that. Right, 0 is the first row from that list, right? And then 0 of that, oops, is going to be some value. So if I make example grid, if this is A, B, C, D, E, yeah, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, and I don't need to do the rest. That's just fine to call it that instead. Close it off. Okay, so if I do 0, 0 from example grid like I did here, it should be A. That makes sense. If I do 0, 1, will that give me B or will that give me F? B. Okay. So if I now do get in example grid, 0, 0 should give me A. 0, 1, do I expect it to give me B? Yeah. So 2, 1 should give me L. Yeah. So here, what I have is it's doing the it's column row. Is it? Wait a second. Let me think about this. 2 is going first. It's row column. Yeah. So row column. So well, okay, so something like that. So what I want to try and do now let's try one update in example grid 2, 1, and the function, oh, actually, I don't need to update in, let's do assoc in, right? So in the position 2, 1 on that grid, type in foo instead. Give me that grid out. So now instead of L, I should see K, foo, M, and OP in the last row. Yes, which is exactly correct right here. Now, the problem that I noticed is I want it to match the structure I had before. It should be this, and now it fits the same. And the reason I have these strings in lists themselves is because what I actually want is them to be RGB values like that. So actually, if I do I wonder what happens if I associate into just a list of lists. Can't do that. So I need to create make grid width height I am kind of wondering if this is actually a good approach, but I'll go ahead and do it because it's the first thing that came to my mind, and better to start there than nowhere. Okay, so if I make a grid, right, it's going to be, pardon me, the width will be the columns and the height will be the row count. Does that make sense? Okay, well, let's make a row equal into an empty vector, repeat nil. Can you do repeat with a terminating? So repeat for nil. Okay, into vector, repeat for nil. Yeah, okay. So we have repeat width nil. And then a column well, then the whole thing will just be into an empty thing, repeat row, repeat height row. Does that make sense? Let's make a grid that is width of 6 and a height of 3. Does it look like what I expect it to be? It should have 6 nils per 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a spot of 3. So if I associate in to this grid, the first position 0, 0, I should have, and let's put in, let's imagine a pixel of that color in there. Okay, so we've got 100, 100, 100 in that spot. So then, okay, let's try to put something into the last pixel, so into the top right corner of the grid. So that'll be, let's associate that into the row 0 and the last there. Okay, so that's a little confusing, right? Because you're associating things as if they're rows and columns, which is like the flip of doing width and height. So that's the only kind of little mental problem I've got there. But maybe that's a non-issue and I just have to get over it. So I'm trying to think. It's a sensible approach to filling a grid with pixel data that I want. Well, let's do the next thing that I can think to do. I can define a function that takes a grid and turns it into a ppm string. Okay, so you need to give it a grid, and a grid will have, it'll basically map pixel string. So first, actually, so make grid, define get size of the grid in width and height, right? So if I do grid here, it'll just return width and height, but width and height will be determined by, let width be the well, so height is easy. It's just going to be count of grid, right? Well, let me see. So if I make grid 6x3 and I count that grid, will it say 3? Yes. Okay, so the height is just count grid, nice and simple. And the width is actually going to just be count of first of grid, assuming it's a square grid, right? So let's do that. Count of first of make grid 6x3 should give me 6 back, which it does. So there we go. Right, so all I need to do is just return. Let me do it all in a one-liner, because it's not that hard to understand anyway. Okay, but I have this reversed, actually. Then we'll just make sure that that works. Right, so count first of grid should give me the width, and count grid should give me the height. So if I get size, so if I get size of make grid 12 by 50, I should just get 12 and 50 in a vector, which I do, which is nice. Okay, so grid to ppm, then I do let width height be the get size of grid there. Then header can just be ppm header width height. Quite easy. And then the rest, let me see here. If I flatten example grid, I think that won't work. It gives me a list of the values directly, but I need it to flatten down except for, like, I need it to flatten down but -1, like, so not the max depth flat, if that makes sense. I need it to produce a list of lists, right? Because if I do flatten of, let's imagine example grid, I assoc in to example grid 0, 0. A pixel color 120, 200, and 4, some color. this is wrong now, right? I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be a list where it still has the vector intact, a list of vectors. That's what I want. So flatten doesn't totally work for me. I need to come up with something else. But be right back. I have to use the washroom. It won't be long. I am back. Oh, hope everyone's having a good time today, by the way. Feel free to ask questions or just talk in the chat if you're up for it. If you're just here to watch, that's cool too. And if you're watching this on YouTube or rewatching a VOD or something like that, thanks, I appreciate that. I want this content to get better and better over time, so feel free to leave comments or anything like that, because I want it to get better. Okay, so I was talking about how flattening a grid wouldn't work for me, but I can do, I think, what happens if I concat okay, so now I have a list of rows, which actually is no different. There we go. If I apply concatenate, does that save the order? Does it work in the order I expect it to work? So I should expect F to follow E, yeah, and K to follow J, which looks correct. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so here, let's get back into this for a moment. If I just do pixels is just apply concatenate to a grid. Now let me double check my logic for a moment. Assoc in example grid position 1 1 the value that some color. So position 1 1 would be 0 1, or the row would be 0 1 0 1 G. So F G is replaced. Yep. Okay. So that looks okay, I think. Let's see. So that's the pixels. And then the result of this whole thing actually is just stringing together the header and the apply string to the mapping of pixel string over the pixel list. Right, so that should work okay. And let me just add something here for a moment. RGB is the pixel string. Oh. I would have to do it this way. Apply pixel string to the pixels, which is fine. Let's make another little helper here. We'll do no, let's do this instead. 0, 0, 0, like this. That's what make grid will do. So if I string all of these together, I should be able to make a similar result. So instead of black image here being me just doing it directly, I should be able to do let's make black image 2, okay, and it's going to be, can get rid of this now for a moment actually, or forever, not for a moment, I don't need it. Pixel string, black image, the original one is just direct. This new one here is going to be, we'll start with a small grid. We'll do, it's going to be grid to ppm of, all I need to pass it is a grid. So I'm just actually just going to make a grid 100, 100. So if I do that, wrong number of arguments passed to pixel string. Really? Well, let's see. Make grid 3, 3. Apply concatenate. Okay. If I map, apply pixel string onto this, it does, okay, it does do that. And then if I apply string to that, print line, this whole thing, yeah, okay, that's kind of working. But instead, what I've done is something incorrect. So grid to ppm, let's just run it. Make grid 3 by 3. Is that gonna work? No. Oh, maybe make, no. Apply pixel string to that. There we go. I think I didn't recompile make grid into my REPL, so I don't think it was working properly there. Okay, so if I do this, now if I spit ppm test.ppm, and the content is black image 2. Okay, there we go. So now I have a transformation that will take a grid and create it as a ppm string, which I can spit to a file and make things look correct. Now, the next thing I want to do with that is what? What do I want to do? I'm thinking through how I would actually want to make like useful pixel grids, and if the little grid approach I have here actually makes sense. Right? I don't know if it does. So that is a challenge that I have running through my mind. Because so if I want to draw a line, for example, on a grid, what would be the right approach? This may be harder than I initially anticipated, but that's okay. We'll think about it for a minute. Just for kicks, let's make a function that'll fill a grid with noise. Let width height be get size of the grid. Then for oof. For row range height, column range width for assoc in the grid at position row column. I want to make a new thing that's just, oh, let's not do it that way. We'll do this. How does rand int work again? Oof, I forget if the number is inclusive or exclusive. Yeah, it's exclusive, I think. Okay, I want to make rand int 256, rand int 256, and rand int 256. For let, nope. Oh, I have to fix that a minute. Assoc for let noise. There we go. So if I do spit into ppm test.ppm, the noise of make grid 300 by 200. Hey, it didn't work. And the reason for that would be my noise function is not proper yet. So let me get rid of that and get the ppm back to, shoot, I have to show as oops. Oh, I'm doing things wrong. Grid to ppm of that. Come on. Yeesh, what's going on here? Copy that, paste it in there, run it. What's happening? Let me clear out the REPL for a moment. I think I goofed something up. Yeah, I did. See that? That's what have I done? I'm confused by this. I didn't expect that to happen. Let's go. Well, that's weird. Let's kill it. Let's see. Let's try start the REPL over. I'm not sure what happened there. That's a little weird. But is okay. Hopefully the REPL can start up fine. Sometimes it doesn't, and I'm not sure why. I think when I kill the REPL, it doesn't always cleanly close the instance, or like it doesn't cleanly kill the process, and then it hangs the next time I try to start one, but I never know the reason why that is. Not because there isn't a reason, just because I've never wanted to dive deep into why that is. So save that, yes. Oh, I have 2 REPL servers still running. Kill them anyway, yeah. Oop. Start up Emacs. Good old Emacs. Get it going again. Pop open my work log for a minute here. And now let's do here. Open up. There we go. Now let's start the REPL, and that should work fine, I hope. Yep. It pops into a window that I don't want it in, but whatever, I'll just move it. There we go. So now we've got the REPL. Now let's load into that the work in progress thing here. There, okay. All right, so let me make grid 2x2, okay? Let me run grid to ppm transform over that make grid. Now let me spit into ppm test.ppm this content, and now let me open there. Okay, now we're getting somewhere again. We're getting back to where we were before. Perfect. Okay, now what I want to do is fix this noise function to see what I've done wrong. I also don't know if doing a for loop like that actually, like I don't think it's not a for loop. I don't know that it'll use the updated grid, or if it'll, like it might only make 1 pixel random, but I'll find that out. So if I do noise on make grid 2x2, yeah, okay. So it's gonna make it's just, I mean, it's cool, but it's wrong. Let's follow this through for a minute here. Let's run on that I just created there. Grid to ppm of this. Wrong number of arguments passed to pixel string. Oh. wonder if it has to be like this. For column range W. Okay, that's wrong. That's clearly not correct. So let me do this. Get back here. If I do first of noise make grid 2 by 2, that actually looks right. Right, so if I run grid to ppm on that, we've got something. Okay, so that just means 4 is nesting deeper than I want it to, so I could do that, and it should return correctly. Let's try that. Let's get rid of the call to first. But first we pop this back on one line, get rid of first. Yeah, okay, so now for fun, if I go back to this, I can wrap this in a noise function that is wrong but still kind of cool. And it didn't. Yeah, okay. So there's a single pixel in the top corner that's random. That's not right, of course. Right, and the reason for that is, of course, the reason for that is this here, right? I am trying to run I'm trying to run this on the grid, but grid, like in every loop occurrence, right, let me go back for a moment and see here. Ugh, what? There we go. Yeah. So all I see here, right, is this it's only ever doing this, right? Assoc into the first spot and it's putting it out there. Wait a minute. Why? Well, so it's got to do with the fact that this for comprehension thing doesn't save the grid change over and over again. It just runs it on the empty grid every time. I'm pretty sure that's what that's what's happening. So for and do seek. No, this is, oh wait, does loop have the same loop bindings expression? Can I just swap for with a loop? Does that work or will that break? Key must be integer. Okay, so that's wrong. Oh, maybe. Nope, that's not it. Okay, that's fine. So for let's see if there's something, Clojure docs.org. For. Right, so for is basically good for generating lists of things, right? It's not necessarily good for doing what I'm trying to do. Right, like instead, if I get rid of this, instead of associating in to row and column, no, that's not right. While all files present, flattening a sequence of pairs using for comprehension, that's cool. Maybe do seek is kind of what I'm looking for. That's not. What happens when I just do that though? Do seek. Let's see. Oops. Right. I expect this to break. No. Right, because no, that's just obviously not right, because do sequence x range 5 print line x. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. For Okay, so do seek, right, just does the thing and then returns the nil here, right? It does what you have, changing the argument here. And then for will print it, but then it returns the result of the sequence, which in this case print line returns nil. It does its side effect and then it returns nil, so it'll just be a sequence of nils. So if instead I did this, it'll be a sequence, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I do that with a do seek, it should return nil, I think, if I just have x like that. Yeah, okay. That makes sense to me, which means do seek isn't what I want anyway. So what I'm trying to do, something like Clojure update map multiple times. Right, so update in and associate in work in a similar way to what I'm expecting. Yeah, that makes sense. That's easy. Clojure multiple updates to a map. Right, I'm trying to find like an idiomatic way that people would write that. Swap. Oh, he swaps it because M1 he has as an atom, but that's not what. Yeah, Okay. Let's abandon this approach for the time being. And let's make a new noise function that will be basically equivalent to make grid, right? But instead of this 0, 0, 0, make grid noise, all it'll have is rand int in the spots there. Like that. And noise is not what I need. So if I make grid noise 3 by 3, I should have shoot, of course. That's not going to work either. Right, because it's only running rand integer one, like it's only generating random numbers once and then repeating that. So I did something to solve this already. What was it? Iterate. Clojure REPL doc iterate returns a lazy sequence of x, function of x, function of function of x. Yeah, that's not right. Run. No. If I just do this for wait, maybe that's the wrong syntax, but let's see here. Rand int 10. Repeat. What was that again? Okay, Clojure docs. Looking for iterate. There might be, it's not iterate, but there is repeatedly. Yeah, here we go. That's more what I'm looking for, right? That's what it was. Yeah, okay, so it's repeatedly running that function. That's what I'm hoping for. Which means this has to change into take W of repeatedly that's going to be wrong still, but let's see what it looks like. Zero well, let's build it up like we usually do, one little chunk at a time. Take 5 of repeatedly this has to be a function, right? So if I do, well, this is, let's see here, repeatedly, a function that is the vector of rand int 256, rand int 256, 256 rand int 256, which I realize I can change how that looks. Oof, pardon me. Okay, let's take one step back here. Let's take 3 of repeatedly this function randint of 256. Okay. If I spelt things properly, I'd be a lot further along. There. Okay. That is good. Can I run vec on that? I forget. Yep. Okay. That is a function that I'm going to make right here. Okay. Define random color. Okay. It takes no arguments and it does this whole thing here. Vec take 3 repeatedly randint 256. Test it. Random color. Do it again. Different, different, different. Perfect. Okay. Now, since I can do that, I can create a grid. Right? Let's focus on making a single row. It's going to just be vec of take the width. Let's imagine it's a width of 5 of the function repeatedly. No. Of repeatedly the function random color. I don't need to wrap it like that. Random color. Right? So count that. It should be 5. Yep. Perfect. Okay. Now I will be right back. Okay, I'm back again. Not going to be programming for too much longer because the day is really nice and I want to go outside a little bit. And I need to think about how I would actually make a nice set of functions that would actually draw useful things, not just noise. And I haven't even done noise yet, so it's a good start though, I think. So I had here if I copy this as my row function, I need to turn it into a function actually, but it's not going to be take 5, it'll be take w, take the width. Right, so that's a function that I can run because it'll produce a whole row. And then here, the final thing I'm going to do is vec of take h of the row function, which I run repeatedly. Like that. Now that should do something useful. Make grid noise. Let's do 3 by 3. Oh, I don't need count on that. I don't need to count it. Try again. There we go. That's cool. So now, let's see what it looks like if I do spit into the ppm test file, which is being displayed right up here. The result of transforming a grid into a ppm string of make grid noise of a grid that's 300 by 300. Let's try that. There we go. We have noise. That's kind of, I mean, that's cool. It's a step in the right direction to making useful stuff. Right, so it does produce things. I'm just trying to think about an appropriate way to handle things. And it might be to treat images as like an atom and then do swaps well, actually, let's see if I can set something like that up for a moment. So if I make a grid and then I have a function that's make grid, right? What I want to do is produce an atom, but how do Clojure.repl/doc atom creates and returns an atom with an initial value of x and 0 or more options. Validator. Okay, well, so if I def a as atom, make grid 10 by 10, a, how do I do that? Is it at a function Oh shoot, this is all wrong. Okay, let's redefine that as atom and actually call the function properly. Make grid 10 by 10. Okay. So A is an atom and it looks like that. At A just gets the value out of that atom. So if I swap okay, so now I run swap and the atom is A, and the function that I'm going to run is assoc in at A. See, I don't know if this is going to work the way I think it is. Let's swap the 0, 0 position of that, or let's assoc into that a value 255, 255, 255. Does that work the way I think? No. Well, let's try something different here. Swap A, run it like this, assoc in at A. Let's try that. Hey, there we go. So now, since I've done a swap on an atom, A, now every time I just have a look at it, that is there, right? So it stored that in there appropriately. So what happens if I make an atom without defing it, like giving it a symbol? What happens then? Can I access it at all? I don't know. Will that even work? We'll find out. Okay, so atom will just be, well, first of all, width height. Make a grid that's an atom that contains make grid width height. I'm not sure that this will work. 3 by 3. Okay, so it makes an atom, but how do I get it, right? Because if I do this, it's now a different atom. That's not a thing. No, that doesn't make sense. Right, so I've made these atoms, but they have no, like there's nothing on them, right? I can't really get to them. I could pass them directly Let me try one weird thing. I don't think this will work. Oh, it does work. That's weird. But that's not what I need. Right, so if I have make grid and I just run it, but if I do def a as make grid this thing, right now a is that atom. Well, okay, we'll go from there. The last thing I want to try, I think, is pardon me. Let's try to make a noise function that runs on an atom, so it does the update thing. So it'll be noise, and it'll take a grid, but the grid will actually be an atom, right? So if I first do let width height be get size of at grid, right? Because I don't know if I have A as this atom. If I do get size on the atom directly, it won't work. But if I do this, it should. Yes, okay. So that's fine. And I had actually, let me move this down. Oh, shoot. Down to here. Right, so we've got the width and height. So I'm going to make a 4 row range height, column range width. Inside this 4, what you're going to do is swap in the atom grid with the function here, assoc in the position, row, column, the value, random color. Let's see if that works. So if I run noise on A, which is a grid of 3 by 3, oof, that's cool, but it's wrong. Oh, and it's wrong because this is a function, but I passed it in as a value. So I do that. I want to run the function, of course. Let's try again. So I have to redefine A as make grid 3, 3. So A is clean. If I do noise A, So now A, yeah, cool. And I suppose instead of a for, I can actually run it as a it was do seek, right? Do seek. And it should get me the same result, I think. Let's try it. Okay, so we have, let's define A again as a make grid 3 by 3, right? A is clean. Now if I run noise on A, it returns nil, but now A, yeah, cool. Okay, so let's try that. Let's try something. Let's do def A as a make grid 300 by 200, okay? So now, so that should be full of zeros. So if I spit into the file, ppm test.ppm, the grid to ppm of the grid that is from at A, we've got a black, yes, okay, perfect. Now, if I run noise on A and then run this again, sweet. That's cool. So if I do it again, run noise again, run this again, it's different. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now I'm kind of getting somewhere on something. Now I just have this other idea. Clojure, run function on swap of atom. Is that possible? I thought there was a way to validators to change the value of an atom you use swap. You could compare and set as provided, that's fine. They're always free of race conditions, which is nice. As with all reference types, is to hold immutable. Let's see here, see if maybe this tells me something kind of useful. So validator, the validate function must be nil or side effect free function of one argument, which will be passed the intended new state on any state change. If the state's unacceptable, the validate function should return false or throw an exception. Right, okay, so the validator, it must be even. Okay, so if you swap ink, you can't because it becomes odd. Okay. That's cool. That's not what I needed though. Add watch, I think, is probably what I was looking for. Adds a watch function to an atom to an agent or an atom, the watch function must be a function of 4 arguments: a key, the reference, its old state, its new state. Whenever the reference's state might have been changed, any watches will have their functions called. The watch will be called synchronously on the agent's thread. Note that all atoms or ref state may have changed again prior to the call, so use old/new state rather than dereffing the reference. So this seems dangerous to do, but I'm gonna make something anyway because I want to see if it'd be kind of cool. Okay, let's have a look at this. This is a simple example. I don't know what the key is for exactly. Function. Well, okay, let's give this a try. There we go. Okay, so if we add watch to something, watcher, we give it the function key, atom, old state, new state. I don't want to actually run anything. I accept atom changed, and then spit into the ppm test.ppm the new state of the new state. Right, and this is dangerous because if I put in new state that's garbage, it'll save it to a file as garbage. Oh dear. What have I done? Oh, of course, no. So it's a big old mess. I don't want to print anything. Right, A is this big old thing. Okay. Okay. Add watch. Does that make sense? Now if I do noise A, yeah, okay. Alright, so it does actually work. So if I run it again, yeah. So now if I do make grid 300 by 200, and then I do noise A, huh. A is this big old thing, but the watch isn't on it anymore. Oh, because it just was a new atom entirely. So okay, let's start it over again. Let's do def A is make grid 3 by 3. Okay. So we've got, now let's add a watch to that. Let's go like this. Now let's do noise A. It's hard to see, but this does change the image in the top corner there, because the watcher's running when I do that. So if I now reset A, and then new val is going to be make grid, normal grid of 300 by 200. Okay, that's good, but I didn't want it to print out to the REPL, but whatever, I'll let it be, because that shouldn't be too hard. Just gotta wait. I'll just be patient this time. Now, if I do noise A, huh. So something went wrong, but it kind of worked. Things are going wrong, and that's probably because it's still trying to run things a lot, or maybe it's in a bad loop of some kind. Oh yeah, so this is bad because the noise function, it does sequentially for every pixel. Yes, okay. So this is why this is bad, right? So I'm running a watcher that does a thing that has a side effect. It saves to a file, but this noise function, it updates the atom for every single pixel. So it's saving the new file every pixel over and over and over again, and my Emacs window is constantly reverting the buffer here. So that's why you're seeing it fill in with noise over time, which is bad, right? So this is bad. I shouldn't do this. Right, so that's why this is flashing around and doing all kinds of weird stuff. And that's why it might crash my Emacs, which is okay. I mean, like, it's not the end of the world. So if I kill this buffer, I might speed up my life a little bit. Save this, and I have to write a little blurb here. The watcher in the code below is bad. This is because it runs a side affecting function save to a file every time the atom is updated. My noise function swaps, does a swap to the atom for every pixel. This means that the file gets rewritten width by h times. That's not smart. There we go. Okay, so that's good. That's important to know, right? That this is a terrible idea, bad approach. Let's Control X 0, so we're there. I want to completely blast reset a nil. Right, so it might still be running stuff in the background. The new val is nil. Or that. No, okay. Well, okay, let's kill this. Save this. Save that. And I'm going to turn off my stream for right now because I've got a good basis of writing pixel data to a file, which is really, for me, quite exciting. And then I have a clear idea for using an atom to store the state of the pixels, but I need a far better approach for saving that file. Obviously, using an atom watcher with the way I'm swapping things out is a bad idea, so I need to figure out a better approach. But this is a cool start. And I do think it'll be a fun thing to add as an export option to my rendering library. So I'll be able to make SVG images, but also eventually provide like a PNG export where the SVG and the PNG look the same at the same zoom in level. I'm really excited and looking forward to that possibility. It'll be cool. But in the meantime, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be, for the month of June, doing this every day, programming streams, starting at 12:30 for about 2 or 3 hours. And sometimes I do gaming streams in the evening because I enjoy that too. Once June's up, I'll have a really clear idea of how sustainable I can make this. But I am absolutely going to keep doing programming streams longer than just a month because I really enjoy this. I'm forced to do some programming every single day, and I will be, over time, forced to get better and better at actually producing good code. This is early on in the learning process for a lot of things, so there's a bit of prototyping, a bit of floundering sometimes, but I promise to get better at doing this. It's a promise to myself more than to anyone else, of course, but I'm not going to stop because this is really nice and I really enjoy doing it. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Whenever and wherever you are, I hope that's going well for you, whatever you're doing. I'm going to get going. Have a good one.